Now let us move into a very different expression of the fifth house disturbance, Pitta aggravation in the fifth house. And you need to understand right at the beginning that this is not the same as Vata at all, not even close. Where Vata creates irregularity, unpredictability, fluctuation, and loss of rhythm. Pitta creates intensity, it overheats, it sharpens, it penetrates, it accelerates, it transforms. But when excessive, it transforms too aggressively. That is the principle. So when Pitta rises in the fifth house, the first thing I want you to see is this. The fifth house is a house of digestion, intelligence, memory, creative fire, liver function, pancreas, bile regulation, reproductive hormonal intelligence, and the central abdominal processing zone. So when Pitta increases here, the entire field becomes overheated. Not weak, not dull. Overheated. And that distinction is very important. I have seen in many charts that when the fifth house is under strong Pitta influence, the native system does not necessarily fail in the beginning. In fact, sometimes it becomes more active, more driven, more ambitious, more mentally sharp. The appetite may become stronger. The ambition may become stronger. The will to perform may become stronger. But the very same fire that gives brilliance can also become the fire that burns the container. That is the danger with Pitta. So, let us start with the digestive layer. When Pitta increases in the fifth house, the digestive system often becomes too hot, too acidic, too reactive. The person may experience hyperacidity, burning in the stomach, gastritis, acid reflux, or even ulcerative tendencies. If the aggravation becomes strong enough, hunger can become intense, meals cannot be delayed easily. And if food is delayed, irritability rises quickly. You must pay attention to that sign, because in Pitta aggravation, appetite itself becomes a clue. The person may say, if I don't eat on time, I become angry, or my stomach starts burning if meals are delayed. That is not just a personality issue, that is metabolic fire demanding fuel in an imbalanced way. Can you appreciate the fact that this is the opposite of a weak digestive condition? This is not low fire, this is excess fire without containment. And once you understand that, the whole picture becomes much clearer. Now let us move to the liver and gallbladder axis, because this is one of the most important parts of this configuration. The fifth house has a deep relationship with these organs, and Pitta naturally has a strong affinity with bile, liver heat, and inflammatory transformation. So when Pitta becomes aggravated here, I have often seen signs of excess bile, inflammatory tendencies in the liver zone, sharp pain or heat in the right side of the abdomen, and a feeling of concentrated heat in the central digestive field. Sometimes the person may not use medical language at all. They may simply say, there is too much heat in my stomach, or I feel burning here, pointing to the upper or central abdomen. You, as the astrologer, need to understand that this is not random description. It is a classic expression of Pitta accumulating in the abdominal intelligence center. And the word intelligence matters here, because the fifth house is not only a physical digestive house, it is also a house of mental fire. It governs how a person processes, understands, remembers, interprets, and creates. So when Pitta is aggravated here, the mind itself can become more intense. Memory may become sharp but not peaceful. Intelligence may become penetrating but also impatient. Creativity may become powerful but also forceful. Ambition may become high but tolerance becomes low. I have seen this many times. The native becomes mentally brilliant but also mentally overheated. You need to understand this subtlety. Pitta does not always reduce performance. Sometimes it increases performance while reducing harmony. That is why these people can appear very capable on the outside, highly productive, highly focused, very driven. But internally, the system may be running too hot. Now let us go deeper into the pancreatic and metabolic axis. This is another place where students need more sophistication. When Pitta rises in the fifth house, the pancreas may show signs of overdrive rather than collapse. Metabolism becomes intense, hunger cycles become strong. The body may demand food frequently, and there may be a sharp relationship between energy, appetite, and emotional reactivity. I have seen patterns where the native feels suddenly very hungry, intensely driven, mentally sharp, then quickly irritated if the system is not satisfied. This is why the slide mentions increased metabolic drive, insulin overactivity patterns, and intense appetite cycles. The deeper principle is that the metabolic intelligence is no longer moderate, it is becoming aggressive. And whenever a system becomes aggressive, inflammation is not far away. So, from an interpretive standpoint, when you see strong Pitta aggravation in the fifth house, do not only think good digestion or strong fire. That is too simplistic. Ask instead, is the fire becoming excessive? Is there burning? Is there acidity? Is there reactivity when meals are delayed? Is there bile excess? Is the body processing too sharply rather than steadily? Is ambition rising together with irritation? Is mental brilliance coming with heat and intolerance? If yes, then you are likely seeing Pitta in excess, not balanced Agni. That distinction is everything. And now I want to bring in one more subtle part of this slide, the lower heart area. This is beautiful because the fifth house is not isolated from the emotional energetic center. When Pitta rises strongly here, the person may experience a burning sensation in the chest or what feels like heat rising upward from the abdomen toward the heart or throat. This upward moving heat is very important. It tells you that the fire is no longer contained in the digestive basin. It is beginning to move upward into the emotional and expressive channels. And what happens then? The person becomes more easily irritated, more reactive, more impatient, sometimes more critical, sometimes unable to rest properly because the internal fire does not switch off. Even their speech may become sharper. Even their creative expression may become more forceful, more exacting, more perfectionistic. I have seen that in many charts too. When the fifth house is under Pitta stress, creativity is not absent. Rather, it becomes demanding. The native wants quality, wants precision, wants immediate output, wants results. And if things do not move correctly, frustration comes quickly. So now you can see how this house links together. Digestion, bile, pancreas, hormones, memory, the intelligence, ambition, creativity, emotional heat, all of them can get intensified together. That is why the overall pattern of Pitta in the fifth house is this. The digestion overheats, the metabolic drive intensifies, the liver gallbladder zone becomes hotter, the appetite becomes demanding, the mind becomes sharper but less patient, the creativity becomes more forceful, the ambition intensifies, and the body begins to show signs that the inner fire is no longer operating in balance. So the final teaching I want you to take from this is very simple but very deep. Pitta in the fifth house does not merely create digestion, it creates combustion. If balanced, it can give brilliance, sharp memory, strong processing power, powerful creativity, and decisive intelligence. But when aggravated, that same fire becomes acidity, burning, bile excess, inflammatory response, intense hunger, irritability, heat in the abdomen, and upward rising internal pressures. So, when you read a chart like this, you should not just say this person has strong fire. No, that is incomplete. You need to ask, is this fire nourishing or is it burning the system that holds it? That is the real astrological question. And once you learn to see that, the fifth house starts speaking very clearly.